100.4 FM.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the local foodie show, Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM, the tastiest food show on 100.4 FM. Today it's me, Alina Williams, your local foodie and the broadcaster on the Most FM, and Nathan Griffith, social media manager. And our videographer today is Olive Foy. We are going to talk today about things that we love about food and music. And guess what? We don't have a guest today, and we are going to devote our episode to International Languages Week, which is going on right now. And we are going to celebrate it the best way we know by talking about food and music, food around the world and music around the world. So what do you think about the theme, Nathan?
Well, I was introduced to foreign languages recently, and I was also introduced to a lot of international dishes too, and there's so much to discover.
Yes, you're right. And the first song we're going to listen is Language by Annie Kramer, and she is part Haitian, part Cook Islander, and she is a New Zealander. And let's listen to this beautiful song called Language by Annie Kramer. Working, well done. Nathan, what is your favorite international food?
Okay, well, I think maybe the pastel I used to when I was doing some research online, and it's simply a cake, like it's just a pastry, but it's the one I always remember. It's the one that whenever I see it on TV now, I say, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah. Oli, do you think that it will be much better to put it this way while as the song is going on?
So it's actually made from egg.
The egg,
and
okay.
Originally there was an original story too about it, about how the egg whites were sourced somehow from in a certain way.
Yeah, we need a recipe, because without a recipe you could have 7 notes and kind of 28 letters of alphabet, but everyone makes different sense out of them.
Well, these ones actually look like they're flamed, like they must be flamed on top, because they're always like slightly burnt on the top, intentionally.
Please put the recipe or a picture of both on our page, Taranaki Foodies on the Most, and all our readers can comment on it. If you have any favorite foods from around the world, please comment down the comments below the video, and we can discuss all these beautiful things that people can do with food from around the world. And we prepared some really good songs from around the world about food. We're listening to Language by Annie Kramer, amazing lady who is an award-winning songwriter and whose mother is Haitian and dad is from Cook Islands, and she's quite recognized in New Zealand.
So here, at the time, I know we're not on here, but at the time, they used a lot of egg whites to starch their clothes. And so often they would take the extra leftover egg whites and they would turn it into cakes. And there's still a restaurant in France, I think, where you can go in. That's a good question.
So probably egg yolks are made for.
Oh no, the yolks they use. Yeah, they use the yolks to make cakes. So.
Yes, and egg whites were used for something else.
Yes.
This is actually quite cool way to use the whole food, whole product.
Did you realize that bolognese is a very strict standard recipe?
No, I think that it's everyone.
like a government, like from the food sector of the government, has actually issued the actual measurements and everything, and everything should be precise. So even the way the cut of meat and where sometimes even where the ingredients are sourced, like the tomatoes.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. We are talking about food hospitality in our beautiful Taranaki. And it is Michalina Williams and Nathan Griffiths today in the studio. And we celebrate the International Language Week. We talk about food from around the world, we talk about languages around the world, and we talk about music around the world. And guess what? One of the best ways to learn the language is actually through food. Write down how many different food names, titles you know, and for what languages they came from. Of course, everyone knows sushi. I think they pronounced it's slightly different in Japan, sushi, and in fact, a lot of sushi cafes are owned by Koreans in New Plymouth. But hey, you can actually make sushi at home. It is not as hard. It just takes some practice and concentration, like you need to meditate before it and then you'll receive the best sushi. The best part of making your own sushi is that you can put whatever you want inside. For example, if you like salmon with no avocado, you can make only with salmon, or you can make it all plant-based and stuff like that. Nathan, what is your favorite ethnic food from somewhere around the world?
Well, there's a lot of fusion foods now, and that's when all of these traditional dishes have been sort of fused together. And oftentimes the traditional ones, especially the long-standing traditional ones, use basic ingredients like potatoes or things that, are so common. And it was always because of some weird reason. And but now we have so much abundance in the world, and we can just access any ingredients we like. So the fusion food actually is more interesting to me.
Wow, I love that you mentioned simple things like potatoes, because I think we had a food show about potatoes, and we mentioned about 20 different ways to use potatoes. You can make a booze out of potatoes. You can make potato fries, everyone's favorite. You can make mashed potatoes, something that's suitable for kids and elderly, or you can make it into a cake or a pancake made out of potatoes. Gnocchi can be made out of potatoes. So the next song we're going to listen is Food Around the World by the group called Music in Action. An interesting title of the album, Rock and Learn. Let's listen together. Food Around the World.
So one of the most interesting fusion dishes that I've ever seen is spaghetti bolognese fused with ice cream.
Oh my! Spaghetti bolognese with ice cream. Was it savory ice cream or sweet ice cream?
So actually, the entire dish was made from ice cream and strawberry sauce, and it only took on the presentation of spaghetti bolognese.
So it looked like spaghetti bolognese, but really it was an ice cream. Such a cheat for a sweet tooth. I've heard that some people make pasta with chocolate or syrup or all sorts of sweet things. Nougat. Mm-hmm. Have you tried sweet pasta?
I'm not sure. I've seen it made with buckwheat and.
I think one of the most exotic pasta I have eaten was with the octopus ink.
Yeah.
Squid ink, and it was a beautiful kind of like a purplish black color. It did have a slight variety of a taste, but I didn't know whether it came from spices, because in a good dish you can't really separate elements. You kind of taste all things together, and that's why good chefs are in demand.
Okay.
Did you see the article this morning in the Daily News? There were actually several articles about food. One of them about Hawkeye restaurant from Novotel, and the chef who came several weeks ago, Vikram Zakaria, he created a special menu with all the Maori native ingredients to celebrate Matariki, which is next week.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. Remember, you can watch us live behind the scenes on our Facebook group, Taranaki Foodies on the Most. And here you can see what the listeners on air can't hear. Awesome. So we just listened to Food Around the World by the group called Music in Action. I suggested that we all learn languages through different cuisines. Like, and there are so many different titles of the different dishes that are incorporated in the food, and we use it as our own. What's your favorite? Well, mine is croissant. Croissant sounds so fun and so exquisite. I like to have a croissant with a cup of coffee. What's your favorite food, Nathan?
I'm a big fan of Italian pasta. I mean, the pasta's always great with cheese sauce, creamy cheese sauce, but recently I've noticed they do gnocchi filled with cheese. So the case is made from potatoes, I suppose, and then the whole thing's filled with cheese, which is a really interesting take on gnocchi.
I tried several croissants recently. One of these, obviously, is from Petit Paris, which is a French bakery. Also, another one was from this little bakery between, this little alley. You go inside, and this is, I forgot what its name. But also another one that I tried recently, and I was pretty impressed, was from Piccolo Morso. This is little cafe in Fitzroy. They have really, really good bakery department. They have a cafe at the back, and at the front there is a bakery where you can buy something and just go at the back and have a cup of coffee. And
that's right. That we also had them on the show. They told us about their fish pie, which is sort of a take on fish and chips, maybe.
Yeah, but for me, it wasn't the croissant that made them like spectacular. My favorite pie there is peppered steak one. What's your favorite there?
Well, I had a pizza the other day.
From them? Was it good?
It was good. They had a pizza pie too, which I haven't tried.
This is what we call fusion cuisine, isn't it? Let's listen to Des Croissants du Soleil by Émile Claire Barlow. Song about croissants. French cuisine is quite amazing, but I mean, it's celebrated all around the world. But there are some underestimated cuisines that I'm very fascinated about. There's a lot of dishes in South America which I have never tried. There are many dishes or ingredients or techniques in Asia I have never seen. They do quite red sweets there, and we are not exposed to it because I don't know why. Maybe it's just because sugar is the main public enemy at the moment.
In India, they take sugar sauce and they drop it in hot boiling water, and it kind of sets into
like a spiral.
There's a brand new dish in America too. It's called a waffle cake, and they just take dough and they just tip it into the deep fryer, and it sets into a
like a pancake. And then you can have several layers. Recently, my recipe was published in the Nourish magazine, and it was a recipe of layered honey cake, and I learned it when I was living back in Kharkiv, and it was really, really successful, and it is so easy to do. So if you're interested, go in our group and have a look at the recipe section. There is a printed page from Nourish magazine there. What else do I like? Recently, I got a fascination of Turkish cuisine. There are several shops in New Plymouth where you can buy some ethnic food. One of them is Vetro, another of them is Crazy Pumpkin, and another one is the Fresh World, I think it's called. So there you can buy some ethnic ingredients. So this Turkish desserts I bought in Crazy Pumpkin. So I bought some sort of Turkish delight, but usually we know one with apricot and rose water, but this one was pistachio and another was with macadamia nuts, and they were absolutely wonderful. They were not too sweet, they were really nice. And of course, halva. Halva is the thing that they do in Mediterranean. It's a dessert. It's made of sunflowers seeds, and it's actually good for your digestion. And there are so many different 3, 6, and 3 and 6 omega oils there, which is good for your health, for cleaning your body on a cellular level.
Have you ever seen omelet be made? Because that's really hard to do.
Oh, wow.
They take this egg and they kind of cook it, and then they fold it so it's all runny inside and cooked on the outside. And then they place it on top of the dish, and right at the last second they slit down the thing, and it kind of opens up, and all the flying eggs come.
They do it in Asia, right? And it makes kind of the mains more rich.
It's Western influence, though.
Is it? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
the style of Japanese cuisine. It says here.
Okay, well, that's what we like about the modern world, that we can take ingredient from one part of the world, take technique from another part of the world, and cook it on the third continent and succeed and have something nourishing, healthy, and learn something new in the process, like the title of new ingredient, a new language through cooking. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. We talk about language week this episode, and we learn about language through food and music. And we just listened to the Croissant du Soleil by Emily Claire Barlow. And we talked about different ingredients from different parts of the world and how they kind of made their way to another part of the world. And I think that croissants are perfectly consumed with coffee. Just a little bit of advertising there, because we are going to have a coffee connoisseur coming soon to our show. He's not a blogger, or he's not related to any coffee business or something like that, but he's a very happy consumer and he knows his coffee very, very well. So let's listen to Coffee by Jack Stauber, Micropop.
Them in a certain way. It's,
Yeah.
Like pastry, for example. It's so simple. The flour that I was talking about, the funnel cake, it's not about the batter, it's about the presentation. There's so many dishes. I've seen a dish, it's a rice dish, but it's always presented in a big mountain. It looks like a cone shape, and it's usually really quite high. And it serves not just one person, it serves a group of people. So it's for celebrations and things.
I think you're right. The presentation of the food is important part of consuming it, because we use all 6 senses when we eat food. Of course, we analyze the texture when it comes to our mouth, but also if you take some part with your hands, you also experience this as well. Oh, it's almost finished. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM. We listened to a very short song, which is called Coffee by Jack Stauber from Micropop. And we just discussed how important the presentation for food is. I said that we use all 6 senses to consume food. If you look how food, if you look at food, how it looks at the professional kitchen, just all in the containers, all in piles, or in little kind of covered bowls or things like that. But when someone brings it to a visitor, just like sometimes wow. And presentation of food is equally important, because when you see this, or when you interact with food in a process of eating, like crack something on top, or melt something, or you open it and just steam appears, or smoke, you become part of magic.
Okay. Well, a great example of that is with French fries, of course. French fries have been around for so long, and just recently they started to cut them differently. And you can see now they've got the crisp-cut French fries, which they sort of have like a crisscross cut pattern to them. And essentially it's just potato chips, but I love, I had to buy some for myself to try it.
Pig's tails French fries, yeah, it was also quite funny, because it's like a little curls and probably very appealing for children. Yes, is it appealing for you as well?
And Hasselback potatoes too are cut in a certain way. They're sliced, down the potato, and then of course you can sprinkle the herbs in between the cracks, and cheese, of course, which allows all the flavors to get into the potato as well. Yeah. So that's sort of a presentation thing, but it's also about flavoring dish.
Yeah, you can just pile things separately, but when you combine them, it looks nice. It's more appetizing, isn't it? I think it's a perfect time to listen to Pasta and Whiskey Day by Ellie Bitmaker. This is quite a funky song. I'll let you listen a little bit.
Oh, that's funny, yeah.
Someone asked me, what new holiday would you invent? And I wasn't sure, but now I think it will be a pasta and whiskey day. Pasta and whiskey day. Pasta and whiskey day. Oli, what do you call this style of music? Something about beat. It's supposed to be with beat in it.
It reminds me so much. Recently, there was a band that came. I'm sure they were at WOMAD, and they were so jumpy like this. It was so amazing.
It's almost like a ska, ska music. That's very.
There was It wasn't the Goten Project, but it was somebody more obscure than that. I couldn't quite remember.
Shoo-be-doo-be-doo, shoo-be-doo-be-da, shoo-be-doo-be-doo, shoo-be-doo-be-da. Somehow pasta is so appealing. I mean, every culture has it, and it's almost finished. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies. We celebrate Language Week on our Foodies show, and we talk about food and music and, of course, languages. During our episode today, we just listened to Pasta and Whiskey Day. It was quite a funky little beat piece, and we discussed that pasta is so appealing. It exists in almost every culture, and also I couldn't just leave this funky and funny Pasta Whiskey Day there. I just need something cultural. So we're going to listen to Pasta e Basta, which gives you a more Italian feel of the word pasta that came from Italian language. So Pasta e Basta by Dini Cat.
It's great, so often you find a dish and it has some English translation, but in its country of origin, it's called something else. But so often, like, you'll find like tonkatsu and fondue and all these dishes that actually retain their original foreign name.
Yes, and I talked to the lady who came from Switzerland, and she's going to come with her maid to our show later on. And she was talking about fondue. And there are two types of fondue. Normally, the cheese one, which incorporates three types of cheese, and you have little pieces of something, and you kind of put
Maple bread.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you dip it into this cheese mix, and it's kind of a conversational dish. You can do it for a long time. It's not about being fed quickly. It's about taking time and talking to each other, choosing piece of meat or vegetable, cut it, and things like that. And I think fondue exists not only in Switzerland. I think it's also French, maybe German.
And the second variation?
A second variation is with chocolate, but I think it is more modern. But I mean, Swiss chocolate is also quite known around the world.
And then we did like fruit in, is that right? Like strawberries and
marshmallows, strawberries, fruits, whatever. You can put some sweet bread because the European sweet breads are actually quite nice. Presentation of music about food, because there's so many music about food. If we will kind of put them in one playlist, it probably will play for several years. All music about food. So, what is the recent pasta you cooked? Is there any pasta that you absolutely love to cook?
I remember buying those soba noodles because when
Mm.
I found out about them, they were made from buckwheat, but they look black, you see. So I
Yeah,
was
just kind of a
interested.
brownish.
Yeah, and but it turns out buckwheat is just like a sort of certain variation of wheat. So it's not like they taste any different. But for me, I was into the presentation, the way they look black.
Yeah. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM. We celebrate the Language Week at our Taranaki Foodies show, and we talk about food and music and languages. And we went around the world about food and about languages and words that we learn from different cultures during consumption of food or traveling or something like that. Sadly, we can't travel now, but we still can cook at home. We can watch recipes online and discover new things. So we listened to two songs about pasta. One was Pasta and Whiskey Day, which was perfect fusion from my point of view. And the second one was a very funky piece about pasta as being a very good food for party, I believe. And a lot of people now think that pasta is such an easy thing to do, and they're right. They mix it with something that they have from the leftovers, they add herbs from the garden, and this is the best way to cook, I believe, not following the recipes. What's your opinion, Nathan?
Well, I was so surprised by once again the presentation of rainbow pasta. Have you seen rainbow pasta? That comes
Yes.
straight from Italy.
I think there is a lady in Seattle who makes a very creative pasta. So there are different colors, there are some ornaments in it, and I don't know how it tastes, but it looks really bright on
I'm
Instagram.
not sure it tastes any different, but it looks completely different.
But you mentioned that you actually like soba noodles, which is like Oriental type of pasta made of.
Also, the healthiest food in the world, apparently.
Is it? Oh,
Yes.
wow. I think it's a perfect time to listen to the song, which is called Korean Food by Frankie Cosmos.
It's actually not true, since the majority of food is perhaps healthy, but the fact that it probably lacks any sort of negative ingredients and sort of retains like whatever is in wheat that makes it so good for us.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's the
we
reason
need to
bread became,
define what healthy
staple.
is. If nourishing is healthy enough, it makes you kind of stop being hungry is enough, then yes. But there are lots of ingredients that are harmful chemicals and kind of can provoke some.
Well, if we look at pasta, what that contains gluten, I believe.
Well, for some people, gluten is an irritation.
Right.
For
So
their
there's something that it actually has that we don't prefer in our diet. So I think soba probably lacks those types of things. And
yeah, well, do you think that buckwheat is yes, buckwheat is close to the nuts, by nature, rather than the grain. So I'm not sure. We need to learn more about healthy food. So if you have someone who would like you to see on our radio show, please write down and nominate a person, and we can invite them. We'll schedule them in August, because I think we have all the scheduling done till the middle of July. It's just today someone cancelled, so we decided to take an opportunity and talk to you directly. This is very kind of calming music, isn't it?
it is.
Like Korean food sometimes could be calming, sometimes could be exciting. Meditative, would you say meditative?
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, primarily, I believe. I mean, Chinese music.
Welcome back to Taranaki. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM, the tastiest food show on 100.4 FM. This is Alina Williams and Nathan Griffiths. Today in the studio, we talk about Language Week, and we talk about international foods and music. So we've been around the world. We've been in several countries. We talk about words that come from foreign languages that we learn through cuisines. We talked about how we are enriched by discovering cultures through cooking.
Sure. I mean, listen to the names of these dishes: calzone, crepes, risotto, cannelloni.
You're
These
going
are all
Italian.
foreign
You're going
words.
Italian. Try.
Salvin, Leska.
Yes, we missing Warwick today because Warwick will give us the whole list of foods from Asia. He's quite an aficionado of Asian food, and I think that I can kind of impress you with a lot of Eastern European ones, but a lot not at the time. Maybe next time. I think it's about time to finish, and we're going to finish um, with a music which is called Cup of Tea. It's almost like traveling around the world and returning back home and having cup of tea, which pacifies you, which makes you happy and content. Let's listen. Cup of Tea by Casey Musgraves.
Here's what I noticed, Elena, about foreign dishes with that retain their original name. I mean, it unifies the world because language is all about the different sounds, the different sounds they make, and when the dish retains its original name, we get to learn all these different sounds that are within the foreign languages. So we learn a bit of the language. Really, the dish brings a part of that whole culture, doesn't it?
Yes, it is, and sometimes it's an easy learning because you don't think much about this, and it's only one word at a time or one ingredient. Yes, sometimes you learn something about this soba noodles, and you think that wow, this is such a simple, remarkable name.
I go to an Italian restaurant, and all of a sudden I'm reading Italian, right?
How's your Greek language going?
Oh. Yeah, it's going great. I got so much satisfaction from learning that language, and I haven't used it yet for anything. But
yeah, you were going to go to Greece, but then obviously all this pandemic happened and the borders were closed. But it's going to happen in future.
Oh, sure, yeah. And if I,
and you can bring us some new recipes and photographs.
Perhaps a Greek chat room would be the way to go.
Greek chat room sounds like something funny. But Greek cuisines are actually quite healthy as well. I mean, it's probably one of the most healthiest diet, Mediterranean diet. It has lots of olive oil, fish, some meat, lots of vegetables as well.
I mean, you look at the way, like the word burrito, for example, has literally been basically incorporated into our language because to an English person, a burrito, we know exactly what that is, and it has no other name, and yet that's a Mexican word. So it's really, the languages are fused in the same way that dishes are fused, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is beautiful, isn't it? Every language gets enriched, and yeah. Looking forward to having some food at our Leadet Project Food Corner. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies on the Most FM. We're just finishing our show, and we were celebrating Language Week. We started with a beautiful song called Language by Annie Kramer, and we finished with a cup of tea by Casey Musgrave, and we had some different words from different languages. They came to us through cuisine and cooking, and this is, from my point of view, the best way to learn the culture, through food. So it was Elena Williams and Nathan Griffiths with you in the studio of the Most FM, and see you next week online or on airwaves. Bye bye, my gourmet. Bye. See you later.
It's quite interesting. You're talking about cheese fondue, kind of looking at a sign flashing up there, and talking about cheese fondue in Area 41.
Oh.
Yes.
So the interesting way with fondue, of course. No, have you seen those? Have you seen those volcanic plates that the restaurant will heat, and they bring a raw piece of steak out, and then the diner actually places the raw meat onto the hot
Oh, I see,
Plate.
okay. I do that in a lot of Korean restaurants.
Mm.
You should cook your own meal.
Right, right.
Mm.
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 Awesome. This was nice and sweet and easy. Is Dylan there?
Hmm?
Dylan.